Yeah.
Hi, Nick. How are you today?
Good morning there, David. Very good today. Been working
Day off?
hard, studying my chess today.
I know, I heard. I'm getting scared. Will it help?
I'm not sure if it will. I think it will. I've been trying to brush up on my openings, so it's been a bit of a weakness sometimes.
Ah, okay. And that's that subject that I was going to introduce slowly and say that subject that bothers a lot of chess players, namely openings. And so we've decided in our infinite wisdom of elderly chess players, I mean, not veterans, or not, oh, seniors, we'll just say, that we've decided to spend a bit of time together, thank you, on openings. So, shall we do that?
Yeah, we'll talk about openings, shall we?
Okay.
I don't know about you, but there's always some positions I'm happy with and others I'm not. Like against D4, I'm very happy. But against D4, a lot less confident against D4 than I am against E4. So I've been trying to brush up on my openings for black or defenses for black against D4. So I've done a chessable course. I've enrolled for one of those. See what that's like. I'm not sure about it at the moment. It's interesting way of learning, but book learning, I tend to get lazy and never actually do enough of it, So I just end up playing games on the servers in the end, and how much I actually learn, I'm not too sure. I just kind of wing it as I go along. So I've entered the New Zealand champs. I'm in the New Zealand champs at the start of January, so I want to make sure my openings are up to speed. I'm going to take it a bit more seriously now. Now COVID's finished, I can get out and about and play in some tournaments. Yeah.
Oh,
So I don't know how you feel about that, about your openings, whether you certain openings you prefer. Obviously, I know you play a lot of King's Indian attack type stuff, don't you, with white? You always used to give me a lot of trouble with that. That I don't know how you get on with black. You kind of with white you can sort of get away with just not knowing so much, can't you, with white, just playing natural moves. But I think with black it's more difficult. You actually have to study and prepare. You can't just go on intuition so much, can you, with black? So I don't know what you play with black. I don't even know what openings you play with the black pieces. Yeah.
oh. So, do you think that structure, like learning via a structured system, like Chessable in your case, do you think that it's um, how would I put it? Do you think it's kind of going away from the game sometime
It's
or
interesting
sometimes?
because I think what you mean is their learning's very like just memorizing variations. And I don't like that side of it either on Chessable. It's like you just sit there, memorize, repeat. And that side of it, I'm not that keen on. It's the ideas that are important, isn't it, with the openings
I think so.
and the type of middle games that it leads to, and understanding those positions that come out of the opening. And so the courses vary a lot. Some of the courses are really good in that they do know, but people teaching you are actually teaching you properly about the ideas, etc. Whereas some of them, like especially like the free ones and that, they're just like memorizing variations, etc. I'm not sure that does you much good, to be honest. I think you need to, because as soon as you come out of the book moves, then you're not going to know what to do. You're not going to know. Whereas if you've studied and know the ideas, it's like we were talking about the other day with the English, wasn't it? When I was telling you that you take
Hmm.
the F pawn when the knight moves away from E7,
Hmm.
etc. And all those kind of ideas that help you to think for yourself when your opponent's made a move that you don't know. So yeah,
Hmm.
basically that's it. So I tried to pick openings that have got set ideas and good ideas, and like the English, etc., and the Reti and all those ones. They're all more kind of based on ideas and set learning set variations, aren't they? There's something like the Latvian Gambit or something like that. You'd have to actually study everything, wouldn't you? You'd have to kind of know all the variations. I tend to avoid all those things where you need to, because at our age, you can't remember huge amounts of variations anyway, can you? It's like not easy. And like that game I had against Felix in the Queen's Gambit, I decided to, that's not for me, that Queen's Gambit, because it's quite artificial. And a lot in that book I had on the Queen's Gambit, a lot of it was like based on engine analysis. And that's the kind of thing I think you want to avoid, because you're having to play a whole series of kind of unnatural moves and shred a narrow path to get a equality or whatever on one slip and your history, So trying to avoid those kind of positions. And because you get your theory mixed up, it all goes wrong. And then before you know it, you've lost. Your opponent plays something you don't know, and suddenly you're faced with a kind of really messy position where you haven't got much of a clue what's going on. So I try and avoid engine analysis type stuff because it's just too narrow. So I think ideas are the key,
Mm.
basically. I
So
don't know what you think of that.
I like the wee book. I've got a soft cover from Koenig or something like that. Koenig or something. Queen's Indian Defense. And there it talks about the square for black and white E4. The square E4 is very important in the Queen's Indian. And that's why you get a fight for it with the knight on F6 and the bishop on B7 and the bishop on G2 and the knight on C3 and other things like that. Get a lot of fighting going on that square. And you get the simplicity of moving your knight from BD7 to F6 to back up the knight on E4 with a pawn on F5, maybe. So I like those sorts of ideas. And
Mm.
what happens when they play F3 to prevent you moving to E4, which sort of stops me? It might not stop everyone, but it stops me. So then you start to look at the things from a book I read from CJS Purdy about simple chess. And maybe that's why I'm good at it or
He's
reasonable
a
at it because,
he's a famous correspondence player, isn't he?
yeah.
Australian
And
correspondence player.
and if you're playing against an engine all the time, well, guess where that's going to lead? Like the real top moves are going to end up. I mean, it's probably good to deviate. So when I have my opponent play F3 in the Queen's Indian, which is what I've been told by Richard Sutton, now deceased Professor Richard Sutton of law. He said, you seem to quite understand, or he said it better than that. You seem to really understand the concepts of the Queen's Indian defense, which we all know that knowledge is one thing, but understanding is another. And I've already spoken about the time that I went when I was about, I've told Craig, I went when I was about 14 or 15 years old to the tournament bookstall, and I was gleaning the information from the book on the certain opening that I was playing on the board, over the board, and I lost. I primarily think I lost because I wasn't playing my game, but I also didn't know where I was at move 22 because my opponent played all the moves in the book. And it was a big lesson for me. And so, first time, FIDE master Alexandros says, first time is a mistake in cheating. And the second time, I haven't gone there. Haven't even gone there online. That's when I was, 45 years ago. But I learned a big lesson that you have to play your own game. That's my thoughts. So anyway, F3 weakens E3, doesn't it? And it also weakens G3 and H3 and E3 and as well for protection of the pawn from F2 to E3 and G3. So once I move, and that's why I read in CJS Purdy, he would just talk about pawn formations, which I seem to do quite well with pawns. But he would talk about pawn formations, and he would say, just like this is a weakness, just a picture of a pawn on F3, G2, H3. He'd say that's a weak position for your pawns, especially if your king's castle there, because you've got sort of dark squared weaknesses. I've just seen your game, round one for the South Island Championships, and it looked like it was all over. Although, I mean, you were black and you were just screaming in, just like absolutely everything was there ready for demolition of the king position, which was on H1. And I was thinking, well, what would I play for white? Because you've got a knight on F1 and you've got a threat of rook H4 check and that sort of thing. And then queen H2 or something, isn't it? Anyway, so opening ideas, I really believe that the ideas, I agree with you on that, ideas and the understanding of the opening, not just knowing and reeling off the moves.
That's why I'm looking at the Leningrad at the moment, and it's very similar to what you were saying about the Queen's Indian, the E4 square and the E5 square as well in the Leningrad. And it's kind of got quite an interesting one because it has got those themes running through it, a bit like the Queen's Indian. So it makes them kind of easier to play in a way when you know you've got kind of a roadmap of how you're going to proceed
Mm-hmm.
from the opening into the middle game. I think it makes them much easier to play and understand. I was looking at the Queen's Gambit and
Yeah.
I rejected that. The declined Queen's Gambit. I was looking at there's far too many positions I was looking at that were really dry and just the kind of that kind of Carlsberg stretch with a minority attack, etc. I mean, I did quite a bit of work on that, but the positions are quite dry and they just don't appeal to me so much. So I've kind of moved away from looking at that. And I think it's important to pick openings that suit your sort of style and the way you want to play the game, because make a big difference, I think, to your score, can it? I mean, I think that's why a lot of people play the London system because it's pretty boring, etc. But some players that might be only rated like 1700, 1800 If you give them an opening that they're very familiar with and know well and know the ideas, and they play more like 2,200 players, don't they? They do. If you give someone a position they're very comfortable in, they're going to play a lot better than something they're unfamiliar with and don't know the ideas. And I think that's why a lot of people play the London, because it's fairly easy to understand. You're going to get a reasonable position without having to do anything too technical. And it can be difficult to play against. I don't really like playing against London, but I think it is important to choose openings. Once you understand them, you play at a lot higher level, don't you? Even when you're playing stuff you don't understand, even if it's theoretically maybe even better.
But
So
Nick, it's
mm,
not always about what positions you like most, actually. It's also what you get the results in. Um, what book was that? I think it was Simon Webb's Chess for Tigers or second edition or something, where he speaks about the results are most important. But then again, you don't want to be bored when you're playing the game chess. So you want to, well, I don't know. You might like to be bored because you're boring your opponent, eh? They're going to sleep. And meanwhile, so you might be onto something there for your play because if your opponent goes to sleep, it goes, how boring, like no queens, how boring. You might be onto
mm,
something, you know,
it's got
because
to be
if you,
something you're happy with yourself, though. If you're not happy
well,
with, then you're not going to play at your best. It's got to be something you understand.
but do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that happens, doesn't it? You get into
I
some
do.
boring. I remember playing Stephen Coates at the club quite a bit, and he had a book called "From the Opening to the End Game." I think it was by Medness, and he convinced himself he was good at endings. He thought he was good at end games, so he got this book where it cut out the middle game. I think it had like the
Good
King's
blood.
Indian Exchange in it and Perk Exchange and all those sort of exchange variations. And it was pretty boring to play against sometimes. You had to kind of focus and make sure you didn't kind of drift off to sleep because it's not everyone's cup of tea, is it? But I feel the same way about facing the London. I think a lot of people do. It's difficult. That's one thing I'm working on actually. A good system against the London because it's
No,
easy to just drift
Tarish.
along this back, and you can end up in a pretty poor position if you're not careful. Because it's not all too bad really, and white players tend to know what they're doing in that because there's a lot of videos etc. on it and stuff to help them along for the average sort of 1800, 1700 player.
You've already
Yeah.
mentioned that you're not very comfortable with Richie when he plays Bishop F4.
No, I don't like playing against him in the London system.
Yeah. So why don't you, from my point of view, I love helping people in chess. I don't know why, but I do. Why don't you start to think about all these fork bear counter attacking games like E5 on move one instead. I know you got the memory of, but you want to change, that round with the second place getter for South Island champs actual. But like, is that do you get attracted to feistiness in chess, or do you want to play the game that's a little bit laid back, a little bit more careful, like Magnus? Magnus is fantastic at doing that sort of thing. Eh? He says he plays the Norwegian rat, and then he says, "Come and get me."
Yeah,
I should have
I
my
tried that. I tried the rat. I didn't get on with it. I've got Tiger's
oh
book. I
yeah,
can't remember what it's called now. Something Tiger.
just for tigers.
No,
Uh,
what's it called?
I
I can't
another
remember. It's all on G6, and I tried all that. I've tried the accelerated dragging as well for a while. I just didn't get on with it.
you
I think I
used to
like to
play.
be in control. I like to be in control of. I don't like it when positions get out of control too much.
Oh, okay.
And not, but not so.
I
I don't know.
I have fond memories of watching you play a blitz game with one of my Ukrainian friends. I don't know where it was, in the square or something. And you played your bishop to b2 and queen to a1. I just loved it. And also, you used to play c6 and b5. Maybe that was because of Basman.
A6 and B5.
Oh, you used to play c6 as well, somewhere along the line. I remember seeing you playing c6 and b5. And then, and then you've got the people like Gary Kasparov that put refutations in that you can learn off by heart, verbatim sort of style, to the Queen's Indian. So the Queen's Indian has been defeated by the great. So the got all the refutations as well to deal with. I mean, I can remember speaking to a certain player, the Canterbury champion back then, about refutations. And he said, well, and Chris and Michael, I'm talking about Michael and Chris. I won't drop names, but I do wonder where he is. But um, Chris or Michael would both say at separate times that just about every opening is being refuted. You know, oh, you can't play this because of that move, or these are the people that learn verbatim moves. You've got to play it on move 21, not 22. And I can remember seeing uh, now international master of chess, Vernon, and he would be saying, oh, I think I got my lines mixed up, or, that sort of thing. So and especially at my age, I won't speak about your age, you're younger than me, but like, goodness sakes, to have to learn things again, you don't stop learning, do you?
It's, I think opening theory's changed quite a lot, hasn't it? There's been a bit of a backlash against it, hasn't there? There's kind of
Yeah,
like a
there
lot of
is.
people now are playing like D4 and then they're playing knight C3 or whatever. I
Like,
think
yeah,
the old traditional D4 and C4 is kind of not seen as much as it used to be. You've got all these like London systems and Job of a London and all these type of things coming in. I think Carlson's sort of set the trend, didn't he?
yes,
But what people don't realize is he only does so well because he's like so much better than everyone else and
yeah.
he's been playing and he can play any old rubbish and win,
Hmm.
can't he? But it doesn't mean most
Yeah.
people can. But
Hmm.
I played Ben Haig and he played D4 and then knight C3 against me, and I have to admit I hadn't really studied it. But you've got to be prepared for anything now. You never know what's going to come at you. So I think a lot of people now don't study as much as they used to in the openings. They're not the traditional openings anyway. It's like, especially online, you go for. I was trying to practice my Queen's Gambit the other week, and I'd never got anyone to play D4 and C4. I think I had about 20 games, and nearly everybody seemed to be playing E4 at the moment. I think it's a lot more common than D4, especially online. But when I play in tournaments in New Zealand, I find most people seem to play D4.
Mm.
Players over 2,000. Whereas online, it's nearly all E4, isn't it? Yeah. But I'm very happy with my Caro Can. That's
Ah, Do you get the
Stands me in good
bayonet?
stead.
Do you get
The
the bayonet,
bayonet.
don't you?
Which one's that?
Oh, it's just sort of like white goes mad with
Oh,
E5
in the
or
advanced.
an
Oh,
H4.
I play C5 against the advanced.
Oh,
I don't play
so
Bishop F5.
so you play. Oh, okay. I'll note that.
I
But
play
no,
C5 on move 3.
it seems odd. You've
Yeah, yeah.
broken the rules.
No, no, it's quite well known now, the
Yeah, I know.
that line.
I've had it
I
played.
think
Hmm?
I've been playing it for years, and then Huska wrote that book, didn't she, on the Caro-Kann? Now everyone plays it now, so it's trouble is everyone knows what to do against it now. Back when I used to started playing it, White never really knew what to do generally. I won a good game in the Asian seniors playing that C5 line against a Filipino player, and he admitted that he didn't do very well in the opening. He was white, and he didn't really know what to do against it. So it even sort of 2,200 players. It's surprising sometimes how little they actually do know in openings, etc. So yeah, so I think it pays to do a bit of studying, doesn't it?
I would have liked to have seen what would have happened next with playing Gary Lane that round and the next round. I would have liked to.
He definitely would have beaten me if I'd played that game. I was quite ill with COVID when I
Oh no,
if I had played it because I thought about
mm,
just going and playing, even though I didn't know I had COVID, but I was thinking, well, maybe I should. I was tossing up whether to go and play it or not, and I think it's good job I didn't because one, I probably would have given him COVID, and secondly, I would have played like rubbish. So I probably would have got absolutely thrashed. But
no,
you never know, do you?
I mean that had you not got COVID, I would have
Mm.
liked to have seen what happened next. Like get it the day after or something, but I would have liked to have seen you do quite well, as I've told you already.
Yeah, I never know now. It's yeah, I missed the last 2 rounds, didn't I? I was playing well up there though. I was coming played into form, played myself into form at South Island, I think. I knew I wasn't right though the day before and I had 2 quick draws. I think it was against Dowden and Hart and I
I
had
saw them.
kind of I had kind of brain fog and
Mhm. Yeah.
but I just thought I was having an off day. I didn't realize it was COVID,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
interesting games though. It's
How
Tony
did it?
Bowden. He played a Birds opening. That was another thing.
Mhm.
He played a Birds opening, and
Yeah,
I
he
would have
played a
played
lot.
I would have played the From's Gambit, but that's another thing where my opening theory, I'd forgotten so much about the From's Gambit, and it's the sort of thing that you might only see every 10 years. Someone plays a From's Gambit against you,
Yeah.
and by the time they do, you've forgotten all the theory of it, and it's the kind of thing where if you don't get it right, you walking into a minefield, aren't they? Because obviously someone who plays the Birds opening is going to obviously have studied the From's Gambit. He was telling me after the game that it's actually supposed to be quite good for white now, the From's Gambit. It's pretty lucky I didn't play it. So, but I just made up some stuff on the fly. I think I played C6 and Queen B6, etc. And kind of a Dutch sort of setup. It was a weird, yeah, it's kind of a reversed Leningrad type thing or reversed Stonewall. I don't know how it ended up.
That won't
So
be appreciated by white.
yeah,
Oh dear, the
it's funny
cost's
to
still there.
it's funny the Birds, isn't it? Because I've been playing the Dutch as black, and you'd think that playing F4 as white would be quite good, wouldn't it? Because the Dutch is reasonable, but it doesn't seem to work. If anything, the extra move seems to be a negative rather than a positive. It's quite strange how that happens sometimes. It's yeah. used to play the NZer Larsen as well with B3 and F4, a bit similar to your Queen's Indian ideas, where white goes for a actually tries to control the
Hmm.
D5 square, I think it is in that one. Is it the D5 square or the E5? I'm not sure, but that's quite interesting too, an interesting system.
So, quick rundown. What are your opening principles apart from opening theory? What's your opening principles in a nutshell?
I haven't really got any. I mean, I break most of them when I play my A6 stuff. I still play all that A6 stuff in Blitz. I played that in the Asian Blitz. Did quite well in that with it. But anything above 5 minutes, anything about like standard games, you've got to play more to general principles, haven't you? But I haven't really got any. I still do quite a lot of hyper modern type stuff, but you've got to try and control the center somehow, haven't you? Even with pieces or pawns. I don't like big centers. Never liked having too much space. I prefer to be the one that hasn't got the space. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
yeah, but no, I mean, for beginners, it's obviously get your knights out, get your two center pawns moved, bishops, castle, connect your rooks. That's the general sort of idea, isn't it?
Don't move your queen out too quick.
Yeah.
Keep her at bay. Keep
Even
her out of
even
space.
opening theory's changed quite a lot there as well, though, hasn't it? Now you see a lot less people castle. They're more likely to go for rook G1 and G4 and all those type of things that were considered wrong not so long ago,
Mm-hmm.
and now into mainstream theory. And I don't know if that's because of the quickening of time limits might have something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
Probably has.
even the longer games now are actually quite quick, aren't they? I mean, 90 minutes
Mm-hmm.
plus 30 is actually
30
quite quick. I
seconds.
remember
Yeah.
when we were young, I'd played in tournaments where you only had to make 10 moves in an hour,
Yeah.
really slow
Uh,
ones. And then you'd
yeah.
play, they'd go on a long time, or they'd have adjournments and you'd
Yeah.
continue the next day. And the time limit was a lot slower. And I think then people, especially at the higher level, probably had to play more correctly, didn't they? They couldn't get away with all these. Now it's like the moves you play, the clock is actually like as important almost as the actual moves you're playing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If you can
Yes.
find moves that make your opponent take a lot of time, then it's probably better value than having a theoretically better position that your opponent's been able to play quickly. So time is very important. It's quite difficult, isn't it? You don't have time for more than three or four big thinks in a game, really, and the time's gone. You see a lot of the
Mm.
games. It's the
Yeah.
same with endings. Everyone says you should study your endings, etc. But I mean, when I look at endings in these tournaments, very often they're a complete shambles because by the time people get to an ending, they've only got like 1 minute left, and they're just surviving on the increments, and it makes it difficult. So really, I think you've got to get your like opening in your middle game really sorted because that's where all the battle is now. It's kind of over by the time you get to the end of it. Most of the games are over because someone's blundered in time trouble or or whatever. So speeding up of chess definitely changed it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not going to get
Yeah,
any
it has.
slower, is it? It's a bit of a shame because when I was young, I was really good at quick play, and I used to play down the club when I was about 13, 14. Like all these 10 moves an hour type thing used to send me to sleep. But now I'm old and I'd appreciate the extra time. It's all sped up, So it's kind of should be more like Benjamin Button, I think, and going backwards. And now's the time I need all the faster, the kind of slower time controls now. Yeah. But
Wow.
Made it interesting, more interesting being speeding it up though, I think, isn't it? I suppose it was computers that did away with adjournments. I
Yeah,
remember even at the club we used to have them, didn't we? Even after computers were around, and people just go home and look at the positions on the computer. Remember I had a game against Tor Russell, and it was really deep, and I went home and put all these lines through the computer. And I just won it just on memory from being able to memorize all these computer variations, which was a bit unfair, isn't it? Really, it's kind of you'd have people playing for adjournments, and they'd try and make sure they'd play a like unusual move, but they'd seal their move, and it would be something unusual to try and put off their opponent's analysis. The young players don't even know what they are, probably, will they? But
no, they
quite
won't know what
interesting.
adjournments are.
London League, we used to have to go back. I used to have to go all the way across London to finish a game. From the 'cause I think you needed to play 30 moves on the night, and then it would be sealed move, and you'd have to go all the way back again to finish them.
Yeah,
Crazy. So, and I think finishing it in one session's better, isn't it? So, yeah.
I prefer it, I think, but I love the adjournments because I would work on them, and people like your mate Alistair would come to me and say, "Can you do my adjournment for me?" So that's a true story. So,
Mm. It's good fun in team matches. I mean, we don't really have team matches here, do we? Because we haven't really
oh,
got
we
anyone,
can, we
any
can,
teams to play. But it used to be really used to get all the team captains would come, especially in London League. You'd end up having grandmasters that were on your board one and two, come down and help you out in your adjournments, etc. It's all kind of the match depended on one of them. It was quite, got quite involved, quite interesting till computers kind of came along, sort of messed it up a bit, haven't they? Computers in a way. I'd preferred chess if there were no chess computers. I think they've been good for the game necessarily. Although without chess computers, probably wouldn't have chess servers, would you? Because they're kind of hand in hand, isn't it? Technology. I like chess servers, but chess engines, don't like them. So many cheats. I think I have had 3 players banned this week that I've played in
mm,
online. I think my
yeah,
rapid rating's about 2,250 or something like that. And kind of around that level, I'm meeting so many people that are just using engines.
yeah,
I just report them, and every few days I get a report back saying you played such and such who was cheating, and
mm.
very common,
Well,
very
we're
common.
up to the minute and a half, so
Yeah, well, it's been a
I,
very good discussion, I think, today, really, isn't it?
I think so.
Quite good. So I'm going to have to get back to Chessable soon as I've got a day off today because of the public holiday in Christchurch. Funny old public holiday, isn't it? Because no one else has got it. It's only like in Canterbury.
Yeah,
But
and they have their ones,
hmm.
they have their show days also. And openings, okay, I often say on here, openings are about one, development, two, centralization, three, king safety. Some people say knights on the rim are dim and try to move 2 pawns at the most, David. Anyway, this video is going to shut. So can you please say goodbye?
Yeah, goodbye, everybody, and hope you tune in and hope you enjoyed it. I'll try and come on and do something at some stage again. But, I'm quite busy at the moment, but yeah, hope you all enjoyed it, and good luck with your own openings, etc. And if you want to go on Chessable, give it a look. There's plenty of free courses on there, so you don't have to pay anything. I do warn you, the actual courses themselves are